Oh my gosh. Sorry, everyone. It was like not letting me go live in landscape. It was like insisting it had to be done in portrait, which is like not my most flattering angle. So let's fix this up. Let's fix this up. There we go. Whoa! Hello, everybody. Yeah, so welcome to our live stream for 1,500 subs. I said I would do, for like every 500 subscribers, we'll do a Ask Me Anything live. I don't know if anybody's going to join us. I had posted up that we would go live at 11 o'clock Mountain Standard Time today. So if anybody wants to come and join us, that would be cool. Otherwise, I think I'm just going to get started on the questions. Oh, I see there's a couple people joining us live. Yay! Give me a shout out in the chat. Let me know where you're coming from. And yeah, we're going to do an Ask Me Anything live here. So I'm a little on the spot, but I tend to one-shot my videos, so hopefully this will still be fun. I'm just going to check and see if there's like chat viewing options. Top chat, live chat, none. Live chat, please. Okay. All right, so yeah. Hello. I see we have one viewer. There was two. Somebody left. All right, first question comes from Jonathan Goodrich, and he says, how long have you been working through the Red Thread Academy materials, and how do you find it so far? So, basically, the Red Thread Academy is run by Lorelei Black, who you can catch over on the Blade and Broom channel, and she has a really great, Witchcraft Academy, if you will. It is a 3-year program that she's put together to teach her tradition of traditional witchcraft, of American folklore witchcraft in the Spiral Castle tradition. And yeah, that's Lorelei Black from Blade and Broom. Check out her channel. She is, she's pretty rad. And yeah, she's put together like a distance learning course that I am working through. And what can I tell you? I'm just about done my first year. I have 2 assignments that are complete. They just need to be written up. And then I am done all of the assignments. And then I just have to do a public ritual, which is scheduled for next week. And then once I'm done leading that, I have a final exam, some planning questions, and an initiation. So, yeah, I'm almost done my first year. I'm super close to being done my first year. Dylan, I'm not sure how long we're going to be live, maybe half an hour or so. So yeah, so basically that is just about done my first year. And the really exciting thing is I've actually just put together a local study group here in Edmonton, Alberta. So if you happen to be in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, or our close surrounding areas, we are starting up an in-person study group for the Red Thread Academy that I'll be... Basically, we're just going to get together once a month and, you know, work on our self-study programs together. So, yeah, kind of interesting. How am I finding it? I'm finding it really, it's really fulfilling. There's not a lot to it that I'm like, oh my gosh, super new, super like, oh, I never knew that. Little tweaks on information that kind of make it specific to this tradition. But a lot of it is just kind of formalizing knowledge gaps, right? Like the reason I wanted to do it is I'm completely self-taught through books, through maybe YouTube videos and stuff. And I decided that I would really like to be able, like, I'd like to test myself against something, right? To know, do I know all I think I know? So it's been really interesting to learn an actual witchcraft tradition, and sort of fill in a few little cracks here and there. That's been really cool. And yeah, it's not, what's the word? It's not hard. It's not difficult stuff, but it is rigorous, right? It's a very academic course. So, yeah, I'm finding it's really cool. I'm really enjoying doing it, and I'm really looking forward to putting together a group to study together. And Dylan, we'll talk about that, but yeah, I think you could totally start a study group like that where you live. Anybody can. one of the questions, I'm gonna talk about that a little bit. That's probably part of, there's 3 questions. That's part of the last question, unless you guys have more questions on here. So I think though that if you want to build something like that, you can. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about that with another one of the questions that comes up. So yeah, that's the Red Thread Academy materials. Again, Lorelei Black from Blade and Broom. That is her YouTube channel. Check it out. In most of the descriptions of her, videos, she's got links in there that you can go and check it out if you're interested in doing it. It's self-study distance, so it's really interesting. But yeah, I enjoy it. I super enjoy it, and I'm definitely going to continue on into my 2nd year with that tradition. So from the Witch of Crows, she asked, is there any belief or practice in the pagan community that you look at and just go, that's a crazy idea, or I can't believe you believe that? And yeah, sure. Not so much, I guess, in the pagan community, but definitely within the witchcraft community. I think a lot of it is when I see some of those newer practitioners who are all like, I'm married to Persephone and Hades, and we play video games together. And I mean, I've talked about that a little bit on one of my videos. And I mean, I'm not like, oh my God, you're crazy. But I'm like I feel bad. I feel bad that you think that that's how that works, because they're obviously, what's the word? It's like they're more role-playing witchcraft than actually doing witchcraft. And it makes me kind of sad, because you can have wonderful, fulfilling relationships with deity, with spirits, with deity. You can even get into God spousing, but it's not what they think that it is. And I think in the end of the day, it's probably more fulfilling than what they're playing at. And it makes me sad, right? It makes me just go like, oh, like I feel bad for you. That is the extent of your experience, right? Can you see the dog, please? She is here. She's on the floor right beside me, but I'm not going to get her up here, because if I get her up here, she will be like all over me, and then it will be nasty. But maybe at some point she will get up for sure. So yeah, that whole kind of like God spousing role play thing kind of just sets me a little on edge, just because it's not like that. And I mean, I did a whole video about it, right? About realistic deity interactions. Let's see. Oh, Dylan, you were about to form a video. Good, I like your videos, Dylan. Keep doing them. Hi, Shane. Hi, Billy Gray. All the way from Scotland. I love it. All right. And Henry. Hi, Henry. All right, so the 3rd question, and this is kind of the last question I have. So if you guys have questions, you need to put them into the chat, so we can keep this going a little bit. The last question is from The Occultist. Great channel, check her out. What is one thing you really love about the witchcraft community right now, and what is one thing you really hate? Hate is a strong word. I'm not going to say hate, but definitely, I mean, what I just talked about, right? Those people who kind of are just role-playing witchcraft, that kind of, it makes me sad. It makes me go like, oh, it doesn't have to be like that. But one of the things that kind of concerns me is sometimes people start like attacking on them. And don't get me wrong, it's fun to like make fun of them a little bit. Sorry, I'm a judgy person, and I like to make fun of people. But at the end of the day, we all have to come into witchcraft somehow, right? Now, I came up in the 90s, and that was like The Craft, the movie The Craft, and Practical Magic, and Hocus Pocus, and all those movies came out. And I remember back then people going, you're only into witchcraft because you watched The Craft. To the point that I specifically did not go and watch The Craft. I've never watched a witchy movie. I've specifically not watched witchy movies so that I had plausible deniability and I could say, no, I am not doing this because of some crazy witchcraft movie. So no, I've never actually watched those movies. So like, do you know what I mean though? But there's nothing wrong with watching The Craft and going, oh, that is like a really cool idea. I want to try that. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. People come to this through all different means and measure. I guess like it's hard not to like judge and make fun of people, but cut them a little bit of slack maybe, right? They might actually get their feet under them and come up with something. And I guess along those lines, the one thing I really hate is that elitism that can pop up, right? That there is one way to do this, and if you're not doing it the way I think you should do it, you're doing it wrong, and you're not a real witch. Like if you guys watched my last book review about traditional witchcraft for urban living, go watch it if you haven't. I'm sure it's quite entertaining because I have a lot of opinions about that book. And exactly, it's people like that who are like, real witches do it like this. And it's like, there are lots of different ways to be a witch. Like, I personally like traditional witchcraft. Personally, in my mindset, to be a witch, like, there are certain things you have to do. But if somebody was like, yeah, I don't work with spirits, I wouldn't be like, you're not a real witch. How is that my place? Personally, yes, I think you have to work with spirits to be a witch. But then again, I can also acknowledge that there are different views and different mindsets. And if somebody is going to call themselves a witch, who am I? Like, this is a very personalized individual path. And who am I to be like, no, you're not. Like, that's just ridiculous. So that kind of, that elitism, I think, really, really is what puts me off sometimes with the community. You don't see it a lot, but you do see it a lot. I find it tends to be, what is the word I'm looking for? It tends to be very under the radar, right? Like, you don't even kind of realize it's there, and then all of a sudden, boom, it like hits you in the face, and you're like, oh, you're, oh, yeah, no. So, yeah, that's what I don't like. What I do like, though, is I do like all the different viewpoints and all the different diversity, especially online. Like, if you really want to challenge your thinking and you really want to, like, learn a lot, there are so many great YouTube channels, TikTokers, Instagram accounts, like online blogs, things that you can check out and research and start really reading and learning and diversifying your own personal viewpoint, right? And I think that we have the ability to come out of that whole like real witches and go, oh wait, there are lots of different ways to do this if you're willing to like educate yourself a little bit. I think is the way I would put it, right? There's so much information out there. Like, it makes me, like, it just makes me happy that there's so much information out there. And yeah, some of it's wrong, in my opinion. Some of it is better than others. But the fact that there is just a lot of information, and you can find good stuff that you can really, really, learn and grow from. And it's, like, so readily available. I love that about our community. And that people are willing to share, right? There's some really great information out there. Like, I look at people like even like Keldon or Laura Tempest Zakroff, authors, who could say, you know what, if you want the information, go buy my book. But they don't. They have great YouTube channels that have all kinds of wonderful information on them. And they're still out there teaching and sharing instead of going, I'm going to hide it behind the paywall of a book. Right? Now, you want the condensed all-in-one version, go grab their book. But if you can't, if that's not accessible to you, you can watch their YouTubes. You can learn from these people without even having to pay a dime. And I love that. I think that's really important. And going back to what you said earlier, Dylan, about I wish I could start a group like that, that is something that I'm really learning to love in person. I set out not quite a year ago, and I was like, you know what? Like, I love the online community. This is really great. But I hate that I do a video or I do a Zoom and I'm like super feeling connected, and then it's done and it goes off and I'm sitting alone in my office again. And it's like, oh, like I miss that where you get together with people and then you have like the car ride home to kind of decompress and you're like, oh, you're all kind of jazzed up, and you miss that when you're online. And I said, I want to build something in person. And I set out to start the Edmonton Traditional Witchcrafters Guild. And it has grown. And I think we're at like 46 members now, which I think is really rad. I wish more people of those 46 participated. I think a lot of people kind of sign up and then they're shy and they don't want to come out to stuff. And right, we're just getting going. Maybe it'll be a little busier over the summer. But I love that I said, you know what, like it was scary, guys. It was scary to go, I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to start this. And you know what? Nobody might be interested. I might do this and get zero response. I might put my time and my energy and my money into this, right? Setting up the web, like I set up a website, I had to pay for Zoom, like all this stuff to kind of get it going. And I might, you know, nothing might come of this. But I took a chance and I took a risk and I did it. And you know what? It paid off. And through that, through the guild, I've met some really great people now over the past almost year. We do book clubs, we do, you know, book clubs and coffee meetups and all kinds of stuff. And it's turned into a bit of a little community. And some of them, not all of them, but some of them were like, I'm really interested in what you're learning at school. And I thought, why don't we start a study group? Because that was my biggest that I didn't like about Red Thread Academy, which, I mean, it's just the nature of the program. It's self-study. It's done by distance. So when I'm doing like my Sabbath rituals and stuff, I would set up this beautiful, elaborate setup for, I don't know, Beltane. And it's just me, myself, and I'm doing my hoozle, my sacrificial meal, similar sort of to cakes and ale, right, as part of the ritual, all by myself. And that was always my feedback on every ritual, was just I felt really lonely, you know? And it seemed like so much work to do just all for by myself. So I was like, this is something I would have wished I had in my first year, is a study group. And so with those few people who were interested, we put it out, and we actually have a waiting list for the study group now, the in-person study group. And again, I was terrified to do it, but you know what, Dylan, if you don't have like a tradition, right? You're like, okay, I'm not part of the Red Thread Academy. I'm not part of that tradition. You don't have to be, right? Why don't you do like a book club? You guys could study Keldon's Crooked Path. You could study Weave the Liminal by Laura Tempest Ackroff. And you could meet once a month and review a chapter a month or review 4 chapters a month. We are going to meet at my house. I limited the study group to me plus 7 people because that's how much room I have around my dining room table. And that's where we will meet to do our study group. You know, is it kind of weird and awkward? My family's floating around and, you know, my husband's in the kitchen right beside us making lunch, whatever. It'll be what it's going to be, right? I did look to see if there was any like free meeting space. I couldn't find anything in the city, like anything that was like quickly apparent. The closest I could find was like our local libraries that would rent you a study meeting room for $20 for, was it $20 for 2 hours? Which is totally reasonable. If you're a nonprofit, which we're not really we're not a registered nonprofit, but we are like a study group, so we might fit. But then I'm like, I personally, that would cost me $20 a month. That's $240 a year of my own money for a free study group, which I'm, you know, I love doing it, but I'm like, no, I can't put any more money into anything right now. And then it would come down to, okay, well then I'm charging people, even if it's like, you know, so that's something we're actually going to talk about as a group, is if we want to grow and get bigger, do we want to include more people? Do we want to start, you know, hey, everybody pitches $2 a meeting and we can rent a library room or something. But I think for now, we're just going to do it in my dining room. You know, you make do with what you have. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? This is a mantra I've had to come up with over the last year. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done. And that has come a long way to serve me a long way in my life. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done. All right, I'm going to go back through some of the comments and see what you guys got. I hope your morning is going well. It is going well. Thank you. How long have you been practicing? And what is the favorite part of your craft? And what's one topic you're interested in but haven't started researching? Okay, so I've been practicing just over 25 years. I started when I was 19. I'm 45 now. That makes 26 years. Oh my God. But I started out like reading Wicca for the Solitary Practitioner by Scott Cunningham. And I kind of dabbled with that for a year or two. And then I was like, you know, and back at that time, the internet then was just starting out in the late 90s, early 2000s. The internet was just really becoming a thing. And I was like, there was like these online group chats and like forums and stuff. And so I was part of that. And, you know, I met some people, and then kind of we like did like a pagan play group with our kids for about a year, and then we kind of grew apart, and I was just sort of like eclectic. I don't know. I know I'm not Wiccan. I guess I'm eclectic. You know, I don't really know where I'm pulling from. And it wasn't until 2018. Was that when I read Laura Tempest Zakroff, Weave the Liminal? I think that was it. And then I was like, oh, this whole modern traditional witchcraft thing, this is really interesting. And she has a whole section in it about how to put together your own tradition, your own practice, right? And I was like, oh, this is fascinating. So I worked through that. She calls it rites. And I went through this whole rites process and kind of formalized up a little bit about what I was doing. And I was like, okay, now I feel really good about this. Like, I didn't feel so much like, I don't know, la la la. And so I kind of started formalizing what I was doing. Not formalizing, but you know what I mean? Like in my head going, oh yeah, this is what I do. Instead of just sort of flitting around and doing whatever sort of took my fancy at the moment. And then that was like 2019, 2020 was when Keldon's book, The Crooked Path, came out. At the same time as that came out, I got, Llewellyn had published, they got the rights to publish Nigel Pearson, Treading the Mill. Nigel Pearson's Treading the Mill came out, and it was funny because I had just, like, literally serendipity. I'd been searching for traditional witchcraft books, and all of a sudden this Keldon book was about to come out, and I was like, oh, that looks like what I'm looking for. And in the meantime, I found a free online PDF of Nigel Pearson's Treading the Mill, and was starting to read through that when I walked into a bookstore, and there it was. And it was only available through Troy Books out of the UK. And serendipity, Llewellyn had picked up the rights at that time to publish it. They no longer do, but they had published it. It was like, you know, for a year, they had the rights to publish the book in North America. And so I was like, oh my gosh. Picked up that book, read that book, was like, this is what I'm talking about. Nigel Pearson has beautiful chapters on deity. And so I started reading that book, and then The Crooked Path by Keldon, which took, like, I really liked Nigel Pearson's book, but it wasn't really instructional, it was more informative. And I read his book and I went, this is what I want to do. Okay, now what do I do? And then I read Keldon's book, which is more instructional. This is how you do it. Here's exercises for you to do. And I was like, okay. And that's when I like really was in early 2020, like January, February of 2020, when I like was like traditional witchcraft like hit home hard for me. And it's just, that's where I've been ever since. So yeah, that's a little bit about that. I don't remember the other question now. Let me go back. All right. What's one topic you're interested in but haven't started researching? That's a good question. What is something I'm interested in but I haven't started researching? Oh, okay. So my ancestry is Scottish on both my mother and my father's side. And so I have really keyed into sort of the Celtic Scottish witchcraft tradition. And part of being a traditional witchcrafter is, you know, so I've got this sort of culture to which I've attached myself. And I don't want to be appropriative, right? I'm being appreciative. I'm learning from Scottish sources. But I live in Canada. And part of our traditional witchcraft is tying your practice into the land upon which you live. So I'm like, okay, how do I take the Scottish experience and make it Canadian? And then I realized, well, Scottish settlers came to Canada. So now this is my new project, The Scottish Tradition in Canada. I have this book, and I have another book, I don't know what it's called, about the settlers who came from Scotland and sort of their transition into Canada. And I'm hoping to pick up some good little tidbits of folklore in there that I can incorporate into my practice. Haven't started yet. That's on the to-do list. I'm just getting the books in right now, and then they'll go onto the shelf to be ready to do that. All right. So yeah, that is something that I'm interested, but I haven't really started researching. But something you used to do in your practice that now you look back on and realize it's super cringe. Woo! You know, I think it's when I started, I had a very, what do I call it? A very like anti-Christian view. I grew up Roman Catholic, and not like strictly Roman Catholic. Do you know what I mean? Like we went to church at Christmas and Easter. We used to go, like when I was little, we'd go to church every Sunday. And then when I was like about, I don't know, grade 4, grade 5, we stopped because it was a big fight. I never wanted to go. I fought and fought and fought. I hated going to church. It was so boring. And I had, I'll call it Catholic trauma. You can go look it up. I have videos on it. Nothing crazy ever happened to me or anything. It's just that worldview just didn't really jive well with my little growing brain. And so when I got started in witchcraft, I was very anti-Christian, anti-Catholicism. And I look back now and I go, oh my gosh, like how embarrassing. Everything I did was like a reaction to my Christian upbringing. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't pure interest in myself. I was like, I'm all about the goddess. I'm all about the goddess. And I refused to work with the god, right? Because I was like, I don't need masculine beings telling me what to do in my life. And oh, so cringe. So cringe. Like, yeah, if I met me back then, I would just pat her on the head and be like, oh, honey, like you have so much to learn. You have so much like ingrained thinking to unpack. If you watch my video, I have a video about witches stop acting like Christians, and that's kind of what it's about, right? Is that Christian mindset, but then you like try to apply it to like paganism and it doesn't work. I was very, very much like that. Yeah, a lot of witches are very much, they're coming from that, even if you aren't Christian, like raised Christian in church, you're still, a lot of us, especially in North America, we live in very Christianized societies, and that is exactly what, that mindset that we come in with, right? That there's one way, there's one right way, and I need to do it the right way, so I'm in the good books with God, or the gods, or the goddess, and I need to make sure I'm doing it right. And it's like, no, like it's not like that. It's not like that at all. Let's see, what else do we got? Yeah, a lot of witches need to learn that. Yeah, and now I work with, almost exclusively, I work with the devil, the folkloric devil. All right. Super cringe, yeah. Dylan says, how I got into the craft was watching a marathon of Harry Potter. I believe the last 2 movies were none of the time. I know, right? I love Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter. And Shane says, the original craft movie was totally what made me interested in the craft when I was a teen. Totally. That's, I did, like, yeah. That's one of my goals this summer, is to actually go back and watch some of those movies. Online is a petri dish in a good way, mostly. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Meetings for ceremony for people, great matcha. In your book review, you mentioned some things were Wiccan. Could you do a video on spotting Wiccan beliefs in a book that isn't Wiccan? Actually, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, so I live in uber conservative Midwest US. What safety precautions did you take when you put out feelers for like-minded folks to get together? You know what? I didn't put out any, there was no like safety. I live in Canada. So, I don't know. I find that, don't take this the wrong way, but you guys in the States have a very like, what's the word? You're very litigious. You're very like attacking each other. Do you know what I mean? Like, exactly. Like, you're like, oh, what kind of safety? Like, you know, I don't want the people coming after me and my family. And it's not like that here. So there was no like safety. Like, I operated within known witchcraft spaces, I guess. So when I put out, but I'm very public. Like, I tag all my videos. I'm in Edmonton, Alberta. It's not a secret where I live. I'm not going to give you my address. I'm not going to tell you what neighborhood I'm in, what part of the city, but you know, like, I don't care if people know that I live in Edmonton. I'm not afraid that people are going to come after me. When I started the guild, basically I started a website with all the information and all the stuff. And then I started a Facebook group. And then I started trying to like post about it in other local pagan and witchcraft groups. And there's like some witchy markets that happen. One in specific, the witchery market that happens in Edmonton, Alberta. Love the witchery market, and it kind of fits my vibe. Like, there's all different kinds of witches, right? There's like the hippy dippy, what do you call it? Sorry, my phone just rang and it was my sister, and I'm like, why is she calling? There's like, you know, the more like, I'm like a little more hardcore, right? I like to wear my biker jacket. I'm, you know, da-da-da-da-da. So anyways, that market sort of fits my aesthetic. So I was like, so I approached the woman that runs the market, and I was like, hey, would you mind if I advertised at your market? Knowing that I'm hitting a witchy market. I went to stores, local witchy stores, and, you know, asked if I could leave some business cards for people to like pick up, that kind of thing. But I operated within like sort of the local witchcraft community that was already existing. If you are in a community that has nothing, I mean, start with making a Facebook group, right? And just start a Facebook group that's like Edmonton Witches. We already had one of those, but you know what I mean? You can do that, right? For your local area, and see if anybody comes and joins. That's what I would probably do. Let's see. So yeah, there were no like safety precautions, if you will. I just made sure I operated within a witchcraft. Yeah, Dylan, give Keldon another chance. He's actually a really good guy. He's a really good guy. Katie says, I question my intuition and my magic. What do you think about the witch wound? Honestly, I have no idea. Don't know what that is. Yeah, I'm not really sure what the witch wound is. I mean, I've heard the saying, but I've never really paid much attention to it. I'm assuming it's like the idea that we all have some link to the past. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry. I'm not trying to be dismissive. I honestly just I don't know. I saw a bumper sticker yesterday that said something like, Make America Pray the Rosary, and I immediately said no. You know what? I'm actually starting to like want to bring my Catholic upbringing back into my witchcraft. Dylan says the closest occult store is about 18 miles away. 18 miles. So what is that, like a half-hour drive? To me, that's not far. I live in Canada. Everything's a 3-hour drive away. Shane says, I think in the States too, it also depends on what part you live or grew up in. Right now I'm in Florida, and while I love the warm weather and beach, there are so many bigoted, narrow-minded people. Oh, an hour and 10 minutes is nothing, Dylan. In Canada, that's not far. Yeah, and it probably does depend where you live. I think it's also just finding that, like, there is a local pagan witchy community sort of everywhere. You need to figure out how to tap into it, how to find it, right? So go places where witchy people would be. Keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Look for people wearing pentacles, all that kind of stuff. I think that's probably your best bet. What tool do I use most in my craft? My phone? Does that count? I research on my phone, I make videos, and to me, making YouTube videos is part of my personal practice, right? Sharing what I know is part of my personal practice. And it took me a long time to sort of realize that. It was my therapist who helped me figure that one out, right? I was like, I feel like I'm not tapping into my personal practice and da-da-da. And she's like, but you spend so much time sharing what you know. And I'm like, yeah, I do like 2 videos a week. Oh, there's Luna. We have people at the door. Oh dear. Luna, no, come here. They want to see you, so come say hi. Come here. Luna, good girl. Yeah, no. She's riled. I think I'm gonna have to go because there are people here and the dog is barking and my sister's trying to get a hold of me, and it's crazy. I'm sorry, I hate to cut you guys off, but she's not gonna stop. It's not gonna stop. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say goodbye. But if you have other questions, leave them in the comments after the video. And yeah, honestly, my biggest is probably my phone, because I research on it, I share on it, I you know, and it's kind of silly, but yeah, I'd probably say my phone. But if you're looking at traditional stuff, probably, yeah, I don't even know. Sorry, I'm so distracted now. I hate to do this to you guys, but I'm gonna bail, and yeah. Mwah! Thank you so much for hanging out, you guys. When we hit 2,000, we'll do another live Ask Me Anything, okay? See you guys.